Farce, the great hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with cold light. Tall pillars made of polished alien stone rose toward a ceiling so high it seemed to vanish into stars. Delegates from over 200 species sat in curved rows, their forms as varied as the worlds they came from. Some had too many eyes, others none at all. Some spoke through clicks and hums, others through glowing symbols that floated in the air. But all of them were watching one small group of humans standing alone in the center of the chamber. Daniel Brooks stood at the front. He was not a soldier, not a general, not even a politician by trade. He had been a history teacher on Mars before the crisis began. But when Earth needed someone who could speak clearly and calmly under pressure, they chose him. His hands were clasped behind his back, his dark suit slightly wrinkled from the long journey. Sweat gathered at his temples, but his voice stayed steady. "Your Honors," he began, "we did not come here to argue. We came to explain." A low murmur rippled through the chamber. The Velnari delegate, tall and silver-skinned with eyes like black glass, leaned forward. "Explain what?" "The illegal terraforming of Krellis 9, the displacement of native life forms, the violation of the Prime Accord signed by your own representatives just 70 cycles ago." Daniel took a slow breath. Krellis 9 was barren. No sentient life, no ecosystem beyond lichen and rock. We scanned it 3 times before landing. Our people are running out of room. Earth is overcrowded. Mars is strained. The outer colonies are barely holding on. We needed a new home, not for conquest, but for survival. A reptilian delegate from the Sark Collective hissed. "Every species claims survival. That does not give you the right to reshape worlds without council approval. But we asked," Daniel said, raising his voice just enough. "We filed the request 6 months before the first drone landed. We never got a reply." The Velnari delegate's lips curled into something that was not quite a smile. "Silence is not permission." The room fell quiet. Even the soft hum of the climate system seemed to pause. Then the council speaker, an ancient being from the Ulani species whose body resembled woven light, rose slowly. Her voice echoed not in sound but directly in their minds. "The evidence is clear. Humanity acted without authorization. They altered a neutral system. They ignored protocol. The law is not a suggestion." Daniel felt his stomach drop. He had hoped for a warning. Maybe a fine. At worst, a temporary suspension of expansion rights. But the speaker's tone left no room for hope. "The Galactic Council hereby declares Earth and all its affiliated colonies in breach of the Prime Accord," the speaker intoned. "Effective immediately. Humanity is banished from all council space beyond the Sol system. All human vessels must retreat within a 5-light-year radius of Sul. All off-world colonies must be abandoned within 1 standard year. Any human presence found beyond this boundary after that time will be treated as hostile." A gasp escaped Daniel's lips. Banished, not punished, not restricted, banished like criminals, like pests, he wanted to argue, to point out that millions lived on those colonies, that families would be torn apart, that abandoning them meant death for many, but he knew it would do no good. The decision was made. The Velnari had wanted this for years. They saw humanity as loud, messy, unpredictable, too emotional, too fast, not refined like the old species of the Council. As the guards, tall armored drones shaped like beetles, escorted the human delegation out, Daniel looked back once. He saw no pity in the faces of the delegates, only relief, as if a problem had finally been solved. The journey home was silent. Their ship, the modest cruiser Horizon's Edge, drifted through empty space. No one spoke for days. When they finally entered the Sol system, Earth looked the same as always. Blue, green, fragile. But everything had changed. News of the banishment spread faster than light. Panic hit the colonies. Protests erupted in Luna City. Riots broke out in the orbital docks of Titan. On Mars, the governor declared emergency powers. But on Earth, something else began to stir. In Geneva, President Elena Martinez called an emergency summit. Not just with politicians, but with engineers, scientists, doctors, teachers, pilots, people who knew how to build, not just talk. In a secure bunker beneath the Alps, they made a decision that would shape the next century. "We will not beg," Elena said, her voice quiet but firm. "We will not hide, and we will not disappear." Marcus Boone, a grizzled shipwright from the asteroid belt, stood up. "Then we rebuild. From the ground up." From the inside out, others nodded. A young pilot named Jake Miller, barely 25, spoke next. "They think we're weak because we're alone. But being alone means no one can stop us from trying new things. And so the real work began, not with anger, but with purpose. Earth's nations, long divided by borders and beliefs, signed the Unity Accords within a month. All military resources were redirected to research and construction. The old warships were stripped down and rebuilt into mobile factories. Universities merged their programs. Every child was taught engineering, biology, and astrophysics alongside reading and math. The Galactic Council expected humanity to fade into obscurity, trapped in their little corner of space. They did not understand that isolation could be a forge, that pressure could create diamonds, that being told you are nothing could make a people decide to become everything. As the last human colony ship left Proxima Centauri under cover of darkness, carrying families, seeds, data cores, and hope, the people of Sol turned inward, not in defeat but in focus. They stopped looking to the stars for permission. They started building their own future, one bolt, one equation, one dream at a time. And far away, in the gleaming halls of the council, no one noticed. No one cared. They assumed the story of humanity was over. They were wrong. Part 2. The Sol system became a closed world. No alien ships came near. No signals from beyond the 5-light-year border were answered. The Galactic Council had drawn a line in the void and humanity stayed behind it. But inside that line, something extraordinary began to grow. President Elena Martinez moved the seat of government from Geneva to a new orbital station called Forge Prime. It hung between Earth and Mars, built from the skeletons of old warships and asteroid-mined steel. From there, she coordinated what would later be called the Great Turn. Instead of wasting energy on anger or fear, humanity poured everything into creation. Factories that once made weapons now built fusion cores. Schools that taught history now ran night classes in quantum mechanics. Even artists helped, designing interfaces that made complex machines feel simple to use. Marcus Boone led the engineering effort. He was a man who spoke little but built much. His team turned the asteroid belt into a web of self-replicating shipyards. Using 3D printers powered by solar mirrors, they could print a small freighter in 3 weeks. Then they taught that freighter how to mine more metal and build another. Soon the belt hummed with activity, not with the noise of war but with the steady rhythm of making. Deep in the labs of Luna, scientist Lila Grant worked on something even more radical. She studied the few alien microbes recovered from derelict ships that had drifted into Sol space over the decades. Most were dead, but some held secrets in their DNA. She combined human bioengineering with fragments of that alien code and created a new kind of terraforming bacteria. It could turn toxic soil into fertile ground in months, not centuries. She called it Green Whisper. No one knew if it would work until they tested it on Venus. Yes, Venus. While the rest of the system focused on survival, a quiet team led by pilot Jake Miller prepared the most daring project yet. They built a shielded arc ship, loaded it with Green Whisper canisters, and aimed for the acid clouds of Earth's twin. The mission was simple: drop the bacteria into the upper atmosphere and see if it could begin cooling the planet. Most experts said it was madness. Venus was a furnace, its surface hot enough to melt lead. But Jake didn't care. If we can fix Venus, he told his crew before launch, then we can fix anything. The drop worked better than anyone hoped. Within 2 years, the upper clouds began to thin. Temperatures dropped by 10 degrees. It wasn't habitable yet, but it was changing. For the first time in history, humans weren't just adapting to a world. They were healing one. Back on Earth, children grew up hearing stories not of the Council's judgment, but of the Forge. They played with toy drones that mimicked real repair bots. They learned to code before they learned to drive. And every year, on the anniversary of the banishment, schools held Invention Day, where students presented ideas for new tech, no matter how wild. One such student was a girl named Maya Ruiz from Chile. At 14, she designed a neural link glove that let users control machines with thought alone. The government fast-tracked her prototype. By 16, she was working alongside engineers on Forge Prime. Her glove became standard issue for pilots and medics alike. Meanwhile, the conquered Navy, what little remained, was being reborn. Old destroyers were retrofitted with new drives that bent space without creating the usual energy spikes that Council sensors could detect. These ghost drives, as pilots called them, let ships slip through space like shadows. Jake Miller tested the first one himself. vanish. Ing from Earth orbit and reappearing near Neptune in under an hour. He returned with a grin and a warning. We're not just hiding anymore. We're learning to move like ghosts. But the biggest breakthrough came from an unexpected place. The deep mines of Ceres. Workers drilling for rare minerals hit a strange energy signature. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Scientists rushed to the site and found a natural quantum vacuum fluctuation. A tear in space-time so small it was almost invisible. Marcus Boone saw it and had an idea. What if they could stabilize it? What if they could use it as a power source? They built a containment ring around the anomaly. At first it kept collapsing. Then Lila Grant suggested using Green Whisper's adaptive proteins to line the ring, letting it heal itself when stressed. It worked. The first 0-point core lit up like a tiny sun, providing clean, endless energy. 1 core could power a city. 10 could power a fleet. With that, the Terran Concord stopped surviving. It started thriving. Ships grew larger, faster, smarter. Colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter expanded underground, shielded from radiation but filled with light and life. Hydroponic farms fed millions. Recycled air tasted fresh. People weren't just living, they were building a civilization that could last millennia, and through it all they never spoke of revenge. They spoke of readiness. Elena Martinez made that clear in every speech. We do not build to fight, she said once, standing before a crowd on Titan. We build so that when the galaxy remembers us, they will not see beggars or rebels. They will see equals. Years passed. The children of the banishment grew into adults who had never known alien voices or foreign stars. To them, Sol was not a prison. It was a cradle. And cradles are meant to be outgrown. By the end of the century, the Concord had over 200 functional warships, though they called them peacekeepers. They had terraformed 3 moons. They had mapped every rock in the system. And they had done it all in silence, without a single signal sent beyond their border. The Galactic Council heard nothing, saw nothing, assumed nothing had changed, but in the quiet dark between the planets, humanity was no longer waiting. They were watching, learning, preparing, and soon, they would step beyond their cradle, not as exiles, but as something new. Part 3. 100 years after the banishment, the Terran Concord was ready. Not for war, but for movement. They had spent decades building in silence, and now it was time to stretch beyond Sol without being seen. The plan had no grand name at first. People just called it the Quiet Walk. Later, it became known as Project Horizon. It began with 3 Ghost Drive ships slipping past the 5-light-year border under cover of a solar flare. Their hulls were coated in light-bending alloys, their engines tuned to emit no heat signature. They carried no weapons, only seeds, data cores, and small crews of scientists and builders. Their mission was simple: find dead systems, places the Council had marked as useless, and build new homes there. The first stop was a star called Virel 7, a red dwarf with 3 rocky planets. All were dry, cold, and lifeless. Perfect. The lead ship, named Dawn Chaser, landed on the second planet. Within hours, drones unpacked from its belly and began drilling. They planted Green Whisper deep in the soil. Solar collectors unfolded like flowers. A small dome rose from the dust, lit from within by soft white light. By the end of the month, the first breath of oxygen-rich air filled the habitat. No signal was sent back to Sol. Not yet. The Concord had learned patience. They waited until the colony could survive on its own. Only then did a tiny, encrypted pulse travel home. Routes set. More ships followed. Not in fleets, but one by one, like seeds carried on the wind. Some went to systems near the galactic rim, where Council patrols rarely flew. Others hid in the debris fields of ancient supernovas. Each colony was self-sufficient, linked only by rare, coded messages that bounced off dead comets to avoid detection. On one such world, orbiting a lonely blue star, a young botanist named Nora Kim discovered something strange. The native lichen, thought to be inert, responded to Green Whisper in unexpected ways. It grew faster. It cleaned the air better. She crossbred it with earth moss and created a new hybrid that could survive in near vacuum. She called it sky moss. It became essential for outer habitat shielding. While builders worked on planets, diplomats worked in shadows. Owen Carter was not a soldier or a scientist. He was a listener. Fluent in over a dozen alien dialects, he had spent years studying Council records smuggled out by sympathetic traders before the banishment. He knew which species were unhappy with Velnari rule, which ones were taxed too heavily, which ones had been denied seats at the council table for centuries. His first contact was with the Kethari, a small amphibious species from the marsh worlds of Gal 9. The council had forced them to mine rare crystals for warships they would never use. Owen found their hidden refugee camp on a moon near the Cygnus Rift. He brought medicine, clean water filters, and an offer. Help us stay hidden, and we will help you breathe free. The Kethari agreed. They gave the Concord safe routes through their sector. In return, human engineers fixed their failing water purifiers and taught their children how to build solar stills. No treaties were signed, no flags raised. Just quiet help between people who understood what it meant to be ignored. Word spread, not loudly but like roots through soil. A mining clan of the Grish, rock-skinned laborers from the asteroid belts of Zorath, began trading raw metals for human medical kits. A group of nomadic pilots from the Silvani Ring started guiding Concord scouts through unstable wormholes in exchange for engine parts. None of these species knew the full size of the Concord. They only knew that humans kept their word and asked for little in return. Back on Ethel, the secret capital world hidden in the Helios Veil, a new kind of society was forming. It wasn't ruled by one person. Decisions were made by councils of builders, healers, teachers, and pilots. Laws were simple: protect life, share knowledge, never take more than you need. Children learned alien languages alongside math. Gardens grew earth wheat next to Kethari tubers. Jake Miller, now older but still flying, led scout missions deeper into the fringe. He once spent 6 months tracking a faint energy echo that turned out to be a derelict Velnari listening post. Instead of destroying it, his team reprogrammed its sensors to report empty space. For years, the council thought that sector was dead. In truth, it held 3 growing human colonies. The Concord avoided conflict at all costs. When a council patrol ship drifted too close to a hidden outpost, they didn't fire. They sent out a fake distress call in an old Sark dialect claiming engine failure. The patrol, bored and far from home, ignored it and moved on. Deception, not violence, became their shield, but secrets are hard to keep forever. One day, a Velnari cruiser vanished near the Cygnus Rift. No wreckage. No signal, just gone. At first, the council assumed pirates, but when a second ship disappeared 2 months later in the same region, they grew suspicious. Scans showed nothing unusual. No energy spikes, no fleet signatures. Yet something was there, something quiet. Rumors began to spread through the lower decks of council ships. Old pilots whispered about ghost ships that moved without sound. Merchants spoke of strange goods appearing in fringe markets, medicines that healed burns in hours, tools that never broke. Some said it was smugglers, others said it was something older. But a few, the smarter ones, remembered the humans, the ones they had banished. They're back, muttered a Velnari officer to his captain, and they're not asking for permission this time. But the Concord wasn't ready to be seen. Not yet. They pulled back their outer scouts. They shut down non-essential comms. They waited. Because they knew something the council did not. Silence is not weakness. It is the space before a storm, and humanity had spent a century learning how to ride the wind. Part 4. Tension spread through the Galactic Council like a slow fever. The disappearances near the Cygnus Rift could not be ignored. The Velnari demanded answers, but no one had any. Patrol logs showed empty space. Sensor sweeps found nothing. Yet 2 of their finest cruisers were gone, and with them over 1,000 lives. The Velnari blamed the Zorathi, an insectoid species known for their silent hive ships and deep space mining. They claimed the Zorathi had built secret weapons with stolen tech. The Zorathi denied it. Their hive mind speaker, a tall figure with chitinous plates and many eyes, stood before the council and clicked in calm rhythm. We trade, we dig. We do not vanish ships. But the Velnari would not listen. They saw weakness in the Zorathi's quiet ways and smelled an opportunity to crush a rival. Fights broke out in the council chambers. Delegates shouted over translation drones. Old alliances cracked under the weight of suspicion. Species that had sat together for centuries now eyed each other like strangers. The Ulani speaker tried to restore order, but even her mind voice was drowned out by fear. What no one knew was that the Zorathi were telling the truth. They had not taken the ships. But they had accepted help from someone else. Months earlier, during a brutal solar storm in the Zorathi home system, Their food fungus farms had failed. Millions faced starvation. Desperate, they sent a silent plea on an old emergency band, a frequency no one used anymore. To their surprise, a human ship answered. It came alone, cloaked, carrying crates of nutrient paste and biostabilizers developed on Ethel. No demands were made, no credits asked for. Just aid. The Zarathi never forgot that kindness. When the Velnari accused them, they stayed silent about their human friends. But they also began to wonder, if humans could help without wanting anything back, maybe they were different from the old powers. Meanwhile, on Ethel, the Concord watched the chaos unfold through hacked council feeds. Owen Carter sat in the strategy dome with Elena Martinez and Marcus Boone. Holograms of angry delegates flickered above the table. They're tearing themselves apart, Owen said. The Velnari think they're strong, but they're just loud. Elena nodded. This is our moment. Not to fight, but to offer a choice. They had debated this for weeks. Some wanted to stay hidden longer. Others said it was time to step into the light. In the end, they agreed on a middle path. No attack, no threats. Just a message. From every hidden colony, from every scout ship, from Ethel itself, a single broadcast was prepared. It used no military frequency, no coded channel. It went out on every open band in every major language, even the old ones. The message showed no weapons, no fleets. Just a simple scene. Children from Earth, Mars, Ethel, and Cathari refugees planting a garden together under a twin sun. Then words appeared, spoken first in human English, then translated. All species deserve a voice. Join us or stand aside. The broadcast lasted only 90 seconds, but it echoed across 100 systems. Reaction was instant. Minor species, those with no vote in the council, those taxed into poverty, those forced to fight wars they didn't understand, listened with hope. The Grish miners sent a coded thank you. The Silvani nomads redirected their trade routes toward conquered space. Even a few mid-tier council members, tired of Velnari arrogance, began sending quiet inquiries through back channels. The Velnari were furious. They called the message an act of war. They demanded the council declare the Concord a terrorist organization. But this time they did not get their way. The Sark collective abstained. The Ulani remained silent. And the Zarathi, for the first time in centuries, voted against the Velnari. That single vote broke the illusion of unity. The council was no longer one body. It was a house with cracks in its walls. Then came the defections. First, the Cathari officially left the council, declaring their marsh worlds neutral and open to Concord aid. Next, the Grish clans shut down their mines and refused to ship crystals to Velnari shipyards. Within a month, 7 more species followed. Trade routes shifted. Supply lines broke. The mighty council machine began to stutter. The conquered did not gloat. They opened their arms. Medical ships flew to starving worlds. Engineers helped rebuild failing power grids. Teachers set up schools and refugee camps. Everywhere they went, they left behind not flags but tools. Not orders but options. On Ethel, a new council formed, not of generals but of representatives from every allied species. The Zarathi sent a young hive speaker named Vrix. The Cathari sent an elder named Tala. Even a former Velnari scientist, disillusioned with her government's cruelty, joined as an advisor. They met under open skies, not in cold halls, and made decisions by consensus. Back in the old council, panic grew. The Velnari pushed harder, demanding a full military response. We must crush them before they grow stronger, their war leader hissed. But fewer ships answered the call. Some captains refused orders. Others simply vanished, rumored to have joined the conquered. The galaxy was changing, not with a bang, but with a whisper. People were tired of being ruled by fear. They wanted a future built on sharing, not control. And the conquered, born from exile, offered exactly that. Yet everyone knew it could not last. The Velnari would not let go of power without a fight. They had too much to lose. So while the Concord built bridges, they also sharpened their swords. Quietly, carefully, just in case. The storm was coming. But this time, humanity would not be standing alone in the rain. Part 5. The Velnari did not wait long. Faced with crumbling authority and open defiance, they chose the only tool they had ever trusted: force. Their war leader, High Marshal Vex, gathered what remained of the loyal council fleets, over 300 warships, each bristling with plasma cannons and shield grids. Their target was clear: Ethel, the heart of the Concord. Destroy it and the rebellion would collapse. They launched without warning. The fleet tore through neutral space, burning past old trade lanes, ignoring pleas from frightened colonies. Vex believed speed would win the day. He did not know the Concord had been expecting him. On Ethel, alarms did not blare. There was no panic. The moment Velnari ships crossed the outer sensor net, every Concord colony went silent. Lights dimmed. Engines powered down. To outside eyes, Ethel looked empty, a ghost world. But beneath its surface, the real defense stirred. Jake Miller, now gray at the temples but still sharp-eyed, sat in the command chair of the flagship Dawn Sovereign. Around him, a mixed crew of humans, Zorathi and Cathari, monitored the incoming fleet. They had trained for this moment for years. "We let them come," Jake said calmly. "We let them think they've won." The Velnari arrived at the edge of the Helios Veil, a cloud of ionized gas that masked energy signatures. Confident, they charged in. That was their first mistake. The Concord did not meet them with a wall of ships. Instead, they used the Veil itself. Hidden drones planted weeks earlier released clouds of reflective nanites. The Velnari sensors went blind. Their formation broke apart as ships collided in the sudden fog. Then the Concord struck, not with brute force but with precision. Small, fast interceptors darted from asteroid hides, targeting only the Velnari command ships. Their weapons were not plasma, but EMP pulses tuned to disable shields without killing crews. One by one, the Velnari flagships went dark. High Marshal Vex screamed orders from his bridge, but his fleet was lost. Ships fired at shadows. Some turned on each other, mistaking allies for enemies. The Concord did not chase. They herded. Like shepherds guiding sheep, they pushed the broken fleet toward a gravity well they had prepared. A dead star wrapped in a zero-point energy net. Once caught, the Velnari ships could not escape. Their engines failed. Their weapons froze. The battle lasted 3 days, not with fire and fury, but with silence and strategy. By the end, over 200 Velnari vessels floated powerless in the Veil. The rest had fled. Not a single Concord ship was lost. When the dust settled, the Concord did not celebrate. They opened hatches, sent rescue pods, offered medical aid to every captured crew, Velnari or not. Even Vex, humbled and silent, was treated with respect. He expected chains. He got a chair and clean water. News of the battle spread faster than any ship could fly. The galaxy watched in awe. The Concord had not just won, they had shown a new way to fight. One that valued life over victory. In the weeks that followed, the old Galactic Council dissolved. Too many members had left. Too much trust was broken. From its ashes rose something new, the Stellar Concord. Its charter was simple. No species would rule another. All voices mattered. Technology, medicine, and knowledge would be shared freely, and no one would be banished for being different. The first council meeting of the Stellar Concord was held not in a grand hall, but in an open field on Ethel. Delegates sat on simple benches under twin suns. Elena Martinez spoke first, not as a leader, but as one among many. "We were cast out," she said, "but we did not become what they feared. We became what we hoped to be." Marcus Boone stood next, holding a small plant grown from earth soil and Zorathi fungus. He planted it in the center of the circle. "This is how we grow now," he said. Together. The Velnari, stripped of power but not of dignity, were given a seat, not as rulers but as learners. Their scientists joined Lila Grant's research teams. Their engineers helped rebuild what they had once tried to destroy. It was not forgiveness given lightly, but a chance earned through humility. On Earth, children who had only heard stories of the banishment now learned a new history. One where being told you are nothing became the spark to build something greater. Statues were not raised to warriors, but to teachers, healers, and builders. Jake Miller retired from active duty, but flew one last mission. He took a small ship to the edge of the old quarantine zone, the line the council had drawn so long ago. He hovered there for a moment, then crossed it slowly, not in anger, but in peace. Behind him, dozens of ships from a dozen species followed, not as an army, but as neighbors. Humanity had not built an empire of conquest. They had built one of connection, not with thrones, but with tables where all could sit, not with walls, but with open doors. And as the stars watched in silent witness, the galaxy began to heal.